Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Today I wanted to start out with just a couple announcements real quick. If you have Twitter, make sure to follow me on Twitter. I actually just started becoming fairly active there. I've had Twitter for a while, but I've made the move recently to being more active on there. And I'm going to be sharing some details about another big announcement, which is I have a new trading strategy that I am finishing up. I've been backtesting pretty much all weekend and a couple weeks before this on a new strategy that I plan to incorporate. It involves gold. It involves shorter term, more day trading style. So if any of that sounds interesting, make sure you stay tuned on Twitter. I'm going to probably be posting some announcements there. And speaking of gold, I just want to give you guys just a little bit of a teaser what I'm talking about. For those of you guys who are members inside of the Discord channel, I will also be sharing updates there, but I do plan on incorporating in the near future some sort of more day trading focused sort of gold strategy, and I'm really excited to release more details about it, but you guys will have to just be a little bit patient with me. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I've been focusing on gold specifically and how it has some really cool day trading possibilities, and I'm going to be focusing more on that it's coming soon. So make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. It'll be coming to YouTube eventually as well. So back to our usual standard video. We are going to be taking a look at gold. We're going to be taking a look at the euro, the dollar, and seeing trade setups or ideas for the week ahead. If that's something of interest to you, smash that thumbs up button. Let's get started. Let's look at the dollar here for a moment. The dollar last week had a rough week. And notably so, we can see that there were some really impressive dips overall, right? The dollar just did not hold it couldn't hold any levels of support very well. In fact, take a look here. If we take a look left, the dollar has put in several instances now where there's basically what we would call a seller stronghold, right? There's just a really tough areas where sellers are just in full control of this market. Each time price rallied up to the 106.8 level, we saw price sell off a cliff, right? And now we have to ask ourselves, at what point do we just sort of say, okay, the dollar is looking bearish on the 4-hour chart? And it definitely does, right? You take a look at the moving averages here. They've furled into downward momentum here overall. And if we take a look at the higher time frame, yes, the higher time frame still trends up, but we've sort of lost that steam that we had when we talked about this level previously. We talked about this level here, right? And what we've noticed is that price has come down into that zone. It tagged this area here, right? And it did find some demand, right? We rallied off that level, but then we held resistance and we put in another lower high. Not only that, we came back down to the lows and we have not been able to bounce thoroughly off that level. Now, is the dollar bull idea dead? I would say not quite yet either. But what we're looking at is something that's awfully close, right? We're coming into levels of support and we're barely hanging on. For me, the dollar has to make a decision pretty much this week if it wants to continue to be bullish or if it's going to break into full-on bearish territory on higher time frames. Now, again, what I'm talking about is this level here. If price is able to break higher this week and start making a move and potentially even break out of these levels, then yes, the bull from a technical analysis standpoint is not quite dead. But on the inverse relation, if this thing actually does fail to hold this area and we actually get it close underneath this zone, that to me would be, okay, the dollar bullishness, at least for now, from a technical analysis perspective, is sort of dead. Now, the Fed overall, we have to talk about the Fed for just a second. The Fed is still quite hawkish, despite the CPI numbers coming out previously last week at only 0% for the month of July, which was obviously a bearish thing for the dollar, right? Because the dollar bullishness has relied on high inflation, meaning the Fed is going to need to raise interest rates and cause a stir there, right? So we've seen that story sort of come to a little bit of a grinding halt all of a sudden, and now we're left thinking about, okay, well, let's look at something like euro dollar, and we say, well, the euro dollar has a little bit of room to breathe here. Now, I still don't love the euro. You guys, if you've been watching the channel, you know I am actually pretty bearish on the euro. I have a EURUSD trade open to the short side, and as this thing rallies, we just have to acknowledge that, okay, well, even if I am bullish or bearish on the euro, the dollar also is looking a bit weak. We're finding higher lows. We broke out of a key structure last week. I mean, this was a pretty bearish, pretty bullish week for the euro last week. We had this level of resistance come into play, right? Which has recently been a super, super strong area for sellers. And then what happened? We popped through it. And at the end of the week, we retested that area. So if you start seeing bounces here, the euro dollar if you believe in the euro dollar, if you think that the euro dollar has more room to the upside, if you think that this is a longer term reversal starting here, then perhaps you're looking at something on the euro dollar with the eyes of, okay, well, let's put our stops here, right? That's a good bit of a stop loss. That's 65 pips there. But then on the upside, you're saying, well, I think that we could swing back up to levels like this, right? This previous here. Some might call that an order block, whatever you call it. Doesn't matter to me. To me, it's just a key spot where sellers came in real strong, right? That spot right there, if you think that that's an area of where we think price could go, you're talking about a 3-to-1. There's still potentially room left to this momentum that we see on the euro dollar. So in my personal opinion, even though I don't love the idea of going long the euro, the dollar looks quite weak, and it looks like if we break out of that level on the daily zone, which we're very, very close to doing so, if we break out, then the euro dollar could make a move up to a level like this pretty dang quick. So euro dollar long idea, again, break and retest, simple technical analysis is telling us, okay, well, it's pretty strong here on the 4-hour chart. Now, again, the only thing I would caution you with is that just be careful that we are still in a downward trend on the higher time frames. If we apply our moving averages, we're still sort of, we tagged that 50 moving average, right? You could see we rejected that 50 pretty dang quick. And if you're thinking that we could rally off this level and potentially retest that 100 moving average, that might actually line up nicely with that zone in terms of a target. So you're playing with a counter trend move technically on the higher time frames on like the daily chart, but there's still, in my opinion, even on the lower time frames, plenty of room there for that momentum to continue in the short term. So if you're the sort of trader that's like, yeah, I could just take that swing, maybe this week we get some bullish run on euro, you know, that's an idea. Let's take a look at another one here. Let's look at GBPUSD, and I would like to compare notes with the pound dollar. So the pound dollar still very weak overall in the higher time frames. Let's take a look at this score chart here for a second and talk a little bit about this. So if I'm taking a look at the score chart here, a lot of the indices are up top, and I would like to talk about the strong buys getting read here from things like US30, SPX500, JP225. It's a very impressive rally last week for these for the indices. If we flip the script though, we take a look at sells, look at all these pound pairs. And we discussed this last week a little bit. Lots of pound bearishness from the Edge Finder in the last few weeks. And if we take a look at this, GBPUSD tops the list as a potential strong sell going into this week. Now, the reason that matters is you might say, well, what the heck does that mean, Nick? This is just a whole bunch of numbers and stuff on the screen. Well, let me break this down for you in a really, really simple way. In case you're newer to my channel, this is our proprietary software. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars at this point in designing, developing, and building what you're looking at. All it does is it's a simplifying tool where it takes several indications of data, not just, RSI or anything like that, but it takes data like the COT data, right? The Commitment of Traders report, and it analyzes it and punches out a score of whether we should buy or sell in terms of that isolated components, at least in the way that we interpret the data. So, okay, COT gets a -2. Retail sentiment gets a -1. So that means that the crowd is long on pound USD. Seasonality, and we'll take a look at this in a second in a more detailed way. Seasonality, this is a negative month for the pound against the dollar. The trend reading here is a -1, so we have a downward trend. GDP growth goes against us, so maybe more GDP growth in the UK. Inflation, unemployment, interest rates. And you might say, okay, well, that's a lot. Is there a better way we could look at it? And the answer is yes. We've built an individual component screen where you can see the individual view. And let's take a look here at pound USD, give it a second to load. And if we go back again to the pound dollar on the daily chart for a second, what we're seeing here is that, okay, moving averages are all lined up. We recently found a bit of resistance here. So I would be cautious as we do tag up into this area. You're talking about a higher time frame resistance point. Let me take my moving averages off. Right, so we double topped here. Let me fix my zone just a little bit. All right, so we double topped here last week. Now the question is, as we found that resistance, do we actually have what it takes to sort of start breaking structure to the downside? So this is sort of the waiting point. Is for me, yes, we've double topped and that's great, but we really would like to see key levels of support now start to break. And on those breaks, that's where I would be potentially interested in joining a trade. So let me give you an example. So let's say that this week we get another flush to the downside on the pound. right? This is the 4-hour chart that we're looking at. Let's say we jump down to the 1 hour and we say, okay, we've rejected off this area up at 1.2260, right? Saw that, lower highs, beautiful, right? Nice little bearish rejection off of that level. So we missed that trade, right? So that trade is gone. I can't take that trade now. So what's the next best one? Well, for me, the next spot of interest would be, if we tighten our zones just a little bit here, would be a breakout of this area. So let's say price comes down to this area and we're expecting, okay, we think that the pound is bearish. So let's look for a bearish break. So the next step would be, we wait for this thing to come down and let's say we get the break. This is what we're waiting for right here. This is the important part, because you can come down to support and you could just rally right off, right? We don't know what's going to happen at a support level. We think, okay, well, it could bounce here, but let's just assume that it doesn't. Let's say that it actually looks really weak. That's a huge red flag, literally a red candle, right? A big red sell-off. That would be a check mark for, okay, sellers are very strong here. And then so we look for this case scenario. So price comes down, punches through it, and then on that retest, right, we're looking for potential sells and continuation plays. And at that point, what we've known is price action has told us that this area, which was so strong for the bulls, is weak, and now sellers are in control. And in fact, right now we can see kind of a little bit of a topping point there. Perhaps a stop loss goes there. That's 78 pips, right? And in terms of where we think that sort of trade could go, we have to zoom out, and this is where the 4-hour chart comes back into play. And look at this. You have a really large 4-to-1 trade there. Now that is more of a swing trade, so you could make the argument for that, right? So we sort of topped out here, retested it, sold off. Again, looking for that sign of weakness at a level of support, and then looking for potentially a continuation back down to the previous low. So pound USD looking really quite interesting there. But again, a lot of the pound pairs actually. So if we go back to our edge finder for a second, remember a lot of the, so this is the individual view, by the way, I forgot to show you guys this. This will break down all the different score components. I'm not sure what happened with this this forecasting. Usually it does not look like that. Let's see, does it look like that on all charts? It does. That's a bug today. I apologize for that. I'm not sure why we had some weird numbers come in that caused that to all turn into a single line. Where did it get these random? That is very strange. Okay, that's what it usually looks like. I don't know what happened with a couple of those charts. They have like some random, like a random input that caused some interesting numbers. Regardless, that's what it usually looks at. Like for example, your dollar CAD getting a sell, which is actually interesting. Dollar CAD popping up to a sell rating now. But anyways, if we go back to what we were talking about with like the pound USD, the pound, here's the seasonality report. So if we look at the month of August, in the month of August, what you see here is that this is data showing the average movement of the pound month over month. That blue line is the all-time average. We have about 15 years of data, right? So that data shows us that in the month of August, we tend to see a decline on the pound USD. So that's useful information. We can factor that into our overall idea of whether or not we want to buy or sell this pair. And then fundamentals, we could go through all of that, but just know you can also read the output. If you have the Edge Finder, you can do that. By the way, if you guys would like access to the Edge Finder, right now we are doing our 40% off sale on the Edge Finder. It is the cheapest you are going to get it. So if you would like access to that, if that's been something that's been on your watch list, if you would like to use this software in your trading, then feel free to pick it up today. The link will be down below in the description. You can get access to it for a huge discount for a limited time. We are ending that sale soon. So we've just been getting more people to use it. We've again, like I said, we've spent a ton of money developing and designing this, and we're looking for some more people who are interested in using it in their own trading. We've had a lot of amazing feedback from the community that's already using it so far, and we're really excited to continue to develop and build more stuff for you guys. So take a look at the other pound pairs, pound Swiss, pound Aussie, pound CAD, all getting strong sells, which I think is really quite interesting. We could continue on. Let's look at some bigger ones though. Let's try and focus on maybe big names. So a lot of pound pair weakness, really quite interesting there. If we just flip scripts for just a second, US30, SPX500, JP225, let's take just a quick look at the indices here and see what we can find there. If we take a look at SPX500 here, look at that bullishness that we had last week. I mean, that is a beautiful end of the week, massive rally there. We came into resistance and we broke through it, which is exactly what I was looking for bullishness on the indices. Now, I already have some longs on the indices. I have trades open in terms of my stock market broker on the indices as well as individual stocks. So last week was a really good week for my stock market account. What I'm looking for now is for traders, for more trading opportunities, pullbacks, right? We got the break. That was a beautiful break last week on the S&P 500. If price is able to dip back down into this area of support, 4180 to 4140, this zone here, that to me is a buy all day long. I mean, things look really, really strong in terms of momentum, right? So could it turn into a seller's market at some point? Perhaps. But for me, in terms of the way I approach the market, right? If I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, long positions here, stops underneath, and I'm looking for a rally that I can build or trail stops in. There's plenty of room here. We've officially seen a really nice breakout, right? This was a huge level of resistance. We came back into that area and this time rallied instead of falling apart. So that's a huge, in terms of just technical analysis, a huge bullish catalyst there. So looking for pullbacks, looking for opportunities to get long SPX 500, as well as some of the other indices, US30 also, of course, an interesting one. The Dow also looking very attractive. So you can see we came and broke through a similar level of resistance. So what was huge resistance now could potentially turn into support looking into this week. So I like it a lot. I like the indices long personally on retests this week, and that's something that I will personally be looking out for myself. So let's take a look at gold. Gold, of course, is a big one. Everyone pays attention to gold in the Forex world, or at least you should. It's a big money mover in terms of daily volume in the Forex world. Gold is huge in Forex and futures. So I want to show you guys just a technical output on gold that I noticed. And again, I mentioned that I will be doing some day trading with gold pretty soon. I've been experimenting with something pretty heavily. I'm not quite ready with it, but it's getting close, and perhaps we'll be ready this week. I have a day trading strategy that I've been working on quite a while. I've been doing a lot of back testing on, and I'm really excited to sort of start that process. It's not, trading. I've been doing the same strategy for a long time. So I've recently decided that I do want to do a little bit of day trading. It adds something to my trading. So let me just do a quick breakdown. If you own stocks, right? If you own one stock, let's say I had all my money in JP Morgan, right? If I own one stock, I'm not very diversified, right? Now, for me, I trade one primary trading strategy in the currency world. Well, I guess I have two. I have one main one that I do most of my trading on that you guys see regularly. It's swing trading. I trade most of the currency pairs. And then I have a reversal strategy that I don't do so much on camera because it's not nearly as exciting and it's much longer term. But now I'm looking to add really a third strategy where I am much shorter term, looking for some interesting opportunities on the day trading side of things. The more diversity that you can add to your trading as well as to your stock account, it's a similar idea. You're putting more opportunities out there. You're putting risk in different places to try and diversify as well as normalize your returns. And that's the whole idea behind adding a trading strategy. Now, I haven't done that in a while, and there's good reason. I mean, do what works for you, right? But I have two strategies that I've used for a long time and a third one that I'm looking to incorporate into my trading. So if you would, again, I told you guys I'd be planning on sharing some details on Twitter. If you're not already following me on Twitter, make sure to go follow TraderNickFX. Should be a fun time once we start rolling out some details there. Gold, again, on the 4-hour chart, for me, watch for the breaks this week. Same concept as the S&P 500 and US30. Breaks, retests, continuation plays. Where could gold go? Well, let's look a little higher time frame and see where we could be headed. In terms of targets, This looks like a pretty clear spot. I mean, everybody who would mark up their chart on the 4-hour chart or the daily chart, sorry, is likely to notice this area, right? 1870. It's a pretty good clear zone. So in terms of that, that's where 1870, if we start running to the upside there on gold and we start breaking out on the lower time frames, back to the 2-hour chart here, right? For example, if we break this level, there could be some opportunities there that could be amazing risk to reward wise. So let's look at that again. Let's look at the 4-hour chart, right? So let's say that we get a break, retest, and we're looking for that continuation. Stops below this range, I mean, that gives you a 3.6. And if you like tighter ranges, like sometimes I'll take a trade like this and put my stop within the range because I really wouldn't want to see price to come back through that level, right? Which I think is still valid. That gives you a massive risk reward. That's a 7-to-1. So I think gold is due for some more upside. I mean, we've been very bullish on gold, and the dollar is looking pretty weak recently because, again, of course, if the dollar comes down, that could cause gold to spike tremendously. So it could give some more room to the upside there on the gold market. So very interesting stuff. Again, I will be, like I said, I'm paying attention to gold very closely as I finish up developing my trading strategy that I will be using or incorporating the newest strategy. If that is something of interest to you, if you're not already inside of our Discord channel, then what are you doing? Get in there, join us inside of the group. We do all sorts of good stuff. If that would be something of interest to you, there will be a link down below in the description. Inside of the group, you can see trades being taken by myself. And yes, that will include if I start doing gold trades, you'll be able to see it inside of the Discord. I'm not quite sure how that will appear yet. I'm not sure if I do it in the same category, if I'm going to change and do a second room just specifically for my more day trading oriented stuff. But if that's something of interest to you, make sure to hit the link down below in the description, join the Discord, click that link, sign up, and I hope to see some of you guys in there. Remember, you can also get access to our market scanner if you haven't already. Take advantage of that super discounted rate today by using the code that is down below in the description. Thank you very much for watching today's video. If you guys enjoyed, thumbs up, subscribe, and see you next time. See you later, guys.